So I just returned from a family vacation, and I want to take a minute to kind of memorialize some of the lessons that I learned or things that I plan to think about or plan around a little more closely next time I do that. So I want to talk about some things that I want to do better at in the future, some lessons I want to really take action from. And this really makes no sense, and this intro is not going very well. Basically, I'm going to give you some family travel tips, some lessons learned the hard way. Hey everyone, this is Ben from ExploreInformed, where we dig into the details of travel. So the next time you go exploring, you can go a little bit better informed. Today we're talking about family travel planning tips. Things to keep in mind, things to maybe do or research in advance of planning a family vacation. Tip number one is think about the destination. Now, I know that seems obvious and maybe the first thing you would do anyways, but I think it's important to think about what types of destinations are really family friendly. Is it a beach resort, a cabin in the mountains, maybe a cruise, a trip to Disneyland? What are the best kind of destinations and places to bring your family? It's probably not a super high-end luxury property somewhere. It may not be a road trip through parts of the country or even another country if you have really young kids that sit in a car seat and be entertained all the time. So I think it's just important to think about kind of what is my family like? What do we like to do? And what is the best destination for our family trip? I also think it's good to do some research about other families who have visited those specific properties or destinations. You can look on TripAdvisor and look for family reviews. Look at places that are really popular for families. If you look at a resort or a destination, thousands of families have visited there before you, then it's probably a good or at least a family-friendly place. Most of the reviews, for example, on TripAdvisor are from retired couples who are looking for a quiet retreat from the busy city life, then that's probably not a family-friendly destination. So I think it's important to really plan and research, but also consider what your family is like and what it is that you like to do. For thought or tip number two, I like to think about kind of how I'm going to get there. Is this a place that is an hour's drive away or a 10-hour plane ride away? There is a big difference. And one option is much easier when bringing your kids along. So one, can I drive there? If so, how far is that drive? Is it an hour? Is it 10 hours? Is it 2 days? And if I can't drive there, how long is the flight? Is it 2 hours or 10 hours? There's a big difference between driving to the beach a couple hours away and flying halfway around the world. So I know that seems super obvious, but I think it's important to think about really realistically, can you get there? Is it going to be a huge pain in the butt to do so? We dream of these fancy destinations and far away, far-flung places, but is it really that practical to kind of take your family there? I'm not always sure that it is. I try to focus on things that are a little bit closer to home and save my kind of big trip planning and some of those kind of crazy bucket list ideas for a smaller audience like me and my wife. So keep that in mind in the future. Kind of where is this place and can I really get there easily and somewhat enjoyably with my family? You don't want to sign up for a travel day from hell. I think you really want to try to keep it closer to home, or at least that's my perspective. Of course, I think the key to all of this is that it's really up to you to decide what you want to do and kind of what your specific preferences are. But I think it's always important to keep in mind, how am I going to get to this destination? Number three. Now, this is something I've started only to think about recently, but I've started to really worry or realize that I think we need more space than I always imagined we do once we arrive at that destination. I think cooping up 4 or 5 people in a small hotel room is not really fun for anyone. I've realized as my kids got older, and they're only 2 and 6 now, but I've realized as they've gotten older that I don't really want to go to bed at 8 p.m. when they go to bed. I want to be able to relax, watch TV, have a drink, do whatever I want to do on my vacation. And so I think I realized that more space is more helpful or more enjoyable. This is not always true, but I feel like in some situations, like at a resort property, there's kind of a correlation between the amount of space you have and the amount of relaxing you can do. So something I'm going to do in the future is look to see if I can book bigger rooms, multiple rooms, suites, something that provides our family a little more flexibility with the time that we have while we're on vacation. And part of the reason is because I think I really personally value kind of the early mornings and the evenings. Sometimes I like to get up early before my kids do, and then I obviously like to stay up later after they go to bed. And I think if we're all in one tiny hotel room, it makes that a lot more difficult. So if you can spread out, kind of use more space, and it allows kind of our family to really continue to do the things we like to do while still on vacation. Number 4, not 8, but 4. Think about food. My kids, like most, are picky eaters, and I even used to be a somewhat picky eater myself. And I think I learned a lesson years and years ago when my wife and I visited Thailand. We hadn't done a ton of research into food. We felt a little bit kind of lost. I know there's so many options there. I think we were almost overwhelmed by the amount of food options that were available. And ever since then, I've taken kind of food research as part of my trip planning a lot more seriously. I look at restaurants, menus, options, prices, and I try to find out kind of, is this a good fit for us, and does it have the options that kind of my family needs? Our needs are constantly changing, and as kids age, their food tastes evolve. But it's something that I always do as part of my trip planning routine, and really will continue to do so in the future. So think about food. And not just like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but snacks. Like, what are you gonna do in between meals when your 2-year-old is crying, or they wake up from a nap and they're hangry and they want something to snack on? In addition to meals and snacks, don't forget to think about drinks if that's the kind of thing you like to do on your vacation. Sometimes it's nice to budget that into your planning. And my 5th thought or lesson learned is really thinking and planning around what you're actually bringing with you. All that stuff. Do you need car seats? Do you need a stroller? Do you need air mattresses? Do you need food and snacks? I always kind of underestimate what it takes to really travel with a family. Now I feel like we fill up our entire car, whether it's a 2-day road trip or a 7-day road trip. The trunk is full. Do I really need all that stuff? I don't know, but I think that's something I'm going to think about more actively and more seriously in the future. You could argue that more stuff just makes a trip more difficult or maybe more cumbersome and allows you a little less flexibility. And I think flexibility while traveling is really important and really valuable. So again, number 5 is think about all the stuff you need, and do you really actually need it? And for number 6, even though this will make me seem like a crazy person, I would say go through 1 through 5 again, or any other thoughts or tips that you have, and think about those things kind of over and over. Kind of meditate on what are those things I need to do in preparation for a family trip. I don't think you can really underestimate kind of what it takes to travel with a family or plan really too much. Now, I know some people say, forget planning, I'm just going for it, and that's fine. But if you're the planning type, I would say think through those major items. Say, hey, where should we go? How should we get there? What makes sense to take with us? How do we plan for food and sleeping and fun and activities and all those things? Because you really can't, in my opinion, plan too much necessarily. I think planning, again, pays dividends. It does pay off in the long run, and you will have a more enjoyable time, at least with the family. I would say if you are just 2 people traveling together, you and your partner or whatever, no, just go for it, man. Experience the place. But I think when you're bringing kids or young kids especially, you really do have to think and plan far in advance. So I hope this video didn't seem too random and too crazy. Hopefully you got something out of this in terms of really lessons learned or things to at least think about while going into your next family vacation. As usual, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ExploreInformed. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.